in the winter of 1955. I was stationed at Hahn Air Base in Germany, and 3 other guys and I went to England on a cross-country training flight over the weekend, and we're going back to Hahn Sunday night. Weather was really bad. Thunderstorms all over the place. And the guy leading the flight, well, we didn't have the best navigation equipment in the world back then. The best thing we had was an ADF that Ben can tell you about. It would home on the radio station that you had tuned in, or if there was a thunderstorm nearby, it would home in on the thunderstorm. So the ADF kept jumping from one thunderstorm to the other, and once in a while it would be on the station we had tuned in at Hahn. But make a long story short, we got lost. Didn't know if our ETA came and went, and we were not at Hahn. So finally, Al Wolf, who was leading the flight, called a radar up and asked them for a radar position. And they said, give me a squawk, which was, we turned on his high identification friend or foe, and they immediately came back and said, turn right, heading 270 immediately, which was kind of weird, but which was exactly the opposite direction we were flying. So we turned around and we were flying 270, and the radar says, you have an F-86D. It's going to be making an ID run on you, which was the fighter interceptors that guarded the border to keep East Germans out. So that didn't sound real good, and we sit there and you think, I'll bet he's got his rockets ready light illuminated. Anyway, he came in and told the radar that we were who we said we were, and they helped to get us back to the Hahn radio beacon. And, okay, we're in a 4-ship flight. Al Wolf is lead, and Bob Aycock is number 2, and Jimmy Jester is number 3, and I was number 4. So we penetrated in two ship elements. And, Al and Bob went down first, and then Jimmy and I followed about 2 minutes later. So Al and Bob had to go missed approach when they didn't break out on GCA final, and same fate awaited Jimmy and me. But, when Jimmy gave me the power signal to start our go, which means a missed approach, I yo-yoed up and down a couple of times and lost him. And that's in we're at solid weather. And so I managed to get transitioned to the gauges in time to recover from an unusual attitude. and then as I'm climbing out, the nose of the airplane lit up with St. Elmo's fire, which is a thing that all aviators hear about, but very few ever see. And that was the first time I ever saw it, and the only time I've ever seen it.
And what was that?
Well, it's static electricity on the airplane, and it's like neon lights.
Wow.
I mean, you're right in the middle of a fireworks demonstration.
Well, what were you flying?
F-86. So I'm sitting there trembling and talking to the radar, and they say, tune in the Wiesbaden ADF. And I was not about to take my eyes off the gauges long enough to try to tune that coffee grinder. So I said, negative, my ADF is inoperative. Give me radar vectors. And suddenly I broke out into a beautiful starlit sky. The prettiest stars I ever saw in my life. And we got radar vector, and I finally got rejoined with Jimmy, and we proceeded to Wiesbaden for landing. And you can imagine that by this time I'm a little bit on edge. We went in and flew the traffic pattern, and I came across the fence, as they call it, which is final approach just before you touch down, and I probably came across the fence at about 210 knots, which was about 30 knots faster than I should have been going. And I slammed that airplane onto the runway, slammed it on again, slammed it on again. 4 or 5 times I finally got it under control, and taxied in, shut down the engine in the parking area. And the first sound I heard when the engine noise died away was Bob Aycock's maniacal laughter. He says, "Nice landing, Dickie. You almost busted your..."
Don't even abbreviate.
And so I made reference to his canine lineage and told him that the only thing standing between him and the trip to meet his maker was the non-availability of a suitable instrument, which is a 45, with which to dispatch him. Well, we finally got into the BOQ that night and got a night's sleep, and got up early the next morning and to go to breakfast, and Al was not there. He had an early appointment with the Commanding General of the 12th Air Force to discuss the situation that led 4 American fighters to fly into East Germany the night before.